Hello, hello. All right. Let me talking about utopian society and what I would call optimal society as well. All right. First off, let's get to the point with utopian society and how I'm defining this. The way I see this is it's every single individual has um, a way they want to live their life, wants and needs which they want to be met, and in an ideal society, in a utopian society, they will be able to fulfill these needs and wants within this society. Now, obviously, the issue with this is someone else is going to have a different view of what the ideal society is for them, and so on and so forth. So, what we eventually get is an amalgamation of maybe a group of people who follow enough of the same principles in order to live in society, which is, let's call it utopian for them. But for everyone, no. And this is where I guess my distinction with the utopian ideal is quite different, or I'm not too sure. But it's a utopian society has to be selective, as in, if it includes everyone, it won't function. Unless, of course, the entire population is subjugated, brainwashed, drugged, and therefore basically they have to be made um, or what would you call it, corralled into believing the same set of ideals or be literal clones of each other. So it's basically to turn every individualistic tendency into a singular individual tendency, which encompasses everyone in a universal sense. Now, I don't, to me, that sounds more like dystopian society, to be honest. Again, we don't want to just, oh, you're not happy in this society? Okay, I can fix you. Like, you know, give me brain surgery so that I do then find it a utopian society. That doesn't seem fitting to me. Whereas what I refer to as an optimal society is one which is following the same kind of lines, but it's it's not looking to it's not looking to um, keep every single individual within its walls. It's kind of a choice. You can come, you can go, and it's also going to be an adaptive society as well, because whatever, let's say there's a group of people, they all agree enough that the society is really good for them. They get benefits from it more than they would if it wasn't in a society, which is often the case for many people. And they're happy going along. But then, things change. They have different ideas. And let's say the vast majority of them then decide to change certain things about the society. This will lead to some leaving, others joining. So it's a constantly evolving system, basically. But I wouldn't call this utopian. It's just a free, open society, so to speak. We can come in and we can leave as and when we please. And yeah, this is why I was talking about what I was saying on a forum. This is why I was extremely opposed to the idea of moving towards an idea of a utopian society, because the utopian society, as I was saying, it either entails everyone being the same or everyone being corralled into a certain attitude through propaganda, brainwashing, coercion, whatever, into believing that it's okay for them. And it's basically it's reaching for a dystopian society. Whereas if we're trying to imagine what I kind of believe most people think when they say utopia, it's a society where every class, creed of human can live with freedom and fulfillment and flourishing as much as everyone else. This is an impossibility. This is an impossibility. And the problem I have with reaching for this is you'll never get to it. And so you're reaching towards an infinity, an impossible goal. And I was putting forth the argument that with an optimal society, you kind of think, oh yeah, this is going to be this idea, this is going to make it better. This is not impossible, but this will make it better. So let's move towards that. And it will be a small step, but there'll be an attainable ceiling to this, or it'd be a more realistic ceiling. Whereas the infinite ceiling of Utopia, a small step, it might seem like a small step for the people with the utopian ideal, but really it's a huge step, because there's no way to measure the difference. It's like, oh yeah, but we're walking towards this impossibility. It's like jumping for the moon. It can be done. And yeah, you have people jumping off the top of mountains trying to get to the moon. It doesn't make sense. It's gonna cause more harm than good. That's the way I see it. That's basically my argument against that. Excuse me a minute, I need to check my internet. Something's going funny here. Oh no, keeps cutting in and out for some reason. Anyway, yeah. And yeah, I was reading about Nozick. I've been going through his what's the title of the book? Anarchy, State and Utopia. And there's something interesting I just read the other day. I've not read the whole book completely yet, but he's talking about within a certain framework, different states or different types of utopian society, which is, I've just put a note down here somewhere. Where is it? Yeah, it's imperialistic, which basically means this will be one which doesn't allow people to, it sounds more like a dystopia. It's like either, it's our way or it's the highway kind of attitude. So yeah, come and believe and stay with us in our utopian society. Whereas the missionary one is more like accepting. It's like trying to encourage people to come in. The missionary style utopian society. But what they both have in common, the imperialistic and the missionary utopian societies, they both believe they are the only one. Whereas he does put forward another idea, which I would not, this is more like what I was referring to just now, which I would call more of an optimal kind of society, where it's a group of people living in a society with reasonably equal values in good harmony. So it's like everyone's got the same idea, the same concepts, but they realize this isn't the best utopian society. They let people come and go as they please, and they allow for other utopian societies to exist, which to me seems a little bit, it seems an unusual way to frame the utopian ideal in my mind. But I was thinking about something along those lines when I was talking about optimal. And I think what is kind of interesting is the way the state of the world today, we're kind of living like that already. Although we've got an admixture of imperialistic, missionary, and let's say some existentialist societies, but we tend not to, we do still tend to screen for people coming in and out, because each nation is like that. It's like a mini society within a global community. And yeah, something I was talking about Nozick, something I was listening to today. There's a guy called the Cultural Tutor, some English guy who talks about architecture and the arts and stuff. He was in an interview, and he was sort of saying that he doesn't read books. Generally speaking, he tries to avoid books that have been written within the last 50 years. So he tries to read books which are 50 years older or more. And it kind of got me thinking. The reason he was saying for doing this is because he's saying it does make sense in a way. The people who wrote those books then, they're now the ones who are sort of running the world, so to speak. So what was ever going on in the academic sphere, the sphere of ideas that were going on, being passed around, they're now coming to fruition now. Or that is the world we're living in now. And with Nozick, and he's sort of mentioning this this idea. I guess it existed back then as well. It seems to be how things are playing out still at the moment. But anyway, yeah, that's about my take on the whole utopian attitude. I think it's bad, 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 bad. It's as a thought experiment. I don't. It's fine, you know, utopian societies, but trying to play out things to suggest that they're going to work for everyone. Nah. I can see why it's appealing, because yeah, there's something I've noticed. Reading in Nozick, he's not mentioned it. It's this kind of the paternalistic idea, the elitist idea, the Platonic idea of the philosophical, you know, the philosophical ruler, the tyrant who is good. And I think there's something within this, and which still resonates to this day. It's kind of, the simple fact is, we don't know what's good for us. And I'm sure we can point to many people in our lives, and even ourselves when we're younger especially, where we think we know what's good for us. We think we know what we need, but we don't. So this kind of guardian group of people we need looking over us, protecting us, it is needed to a degree. And this is the big conflict which I was mentioning the previous recording I made, I believe, regarding Karl Popper, the individualistic progression in open society, still struggling with the remnants of the tribalistic society, the closed society. And it'd be interesting to see in the future how things pan out, but I'm sure I'll be long gone by then. But it'll be interesting what the next stage is, or if there is another stage, or if this is just it. It's just a constant balancing act, which we've been doing for a short period of time as a human society. Things are looking pretty good at the moment, but I'm reading Popper as well. He does note that he does point to Plato sort of having some concerns with population expansion. And something I was just listening to the talk with Robin Denbar about was it the evolution of religion and its uses, or something like that it's called, with the Dunbar number, how it's like 150 people in a community will be united as a force, and yet somehow we've managed to progress to the point where we can live like in a city I'm living now, with millions and millions and millions of people. There's literally, if I just look out my window, there could be like 10,000 people just within that square mile there or so. It's absolutely crazy to think that. And somehow it's held together in a cohesive manner. Whereas Dunbar was sort of saying, go back through history, people would be in tribes, small communities, and you know, if the tribe got too big, people fall out, they just leave, split off, and there'd be another tribe, and so on and so forth. Then of course, once the population gets to a certain point, and when people settle down, then the whole dynamic changed. Sedentary living was, like, for sure a huge point in the human societal evolution, or whatever you want to call that. The advent of writing has changed things as well, the Babylonians, and then the open society as it has flourished with sedentary life, and how feudalism has been mostly repulsed, but it's still very much alive and kicking in many ways, of course. But yeah, are we just going to revert back to a more feudalistic kind of society? Go back into slavery? Are we not able to progress further or not? I guess We shall see. Is this just a blip? Is this just a fluke where we're at the moment? Because as much as people like to say that the world is terrible at the moment, I find it baffling that people can say that compared to what we see looking back in history. But ironically, everyone always seems to realize that things always seem to be better for the next generation than the last in the eyes of older people. Whether it's true or not, I think there's generally truth in it. But we shall see, we shall see. Anyway, it's enough rambling on. That's about it. Yeah, utopian society. I'm against it. Certainly as a target, as a thought experiment, okay. A way to explore ideas, fine, yes. All for the hypothetical thoughts, they're good. But to pursue some ideology as if it's real, as like someone like Lenin would do, I don't think that's a good thing, to say the least. Anyway, yeah, that's it. Bye bye.